Hello everyone and welcome again to yet another iRONiX media video. Now in my previous video I talked about what is the RAM and the kind of work it does, and aside from it comes another important component on your device called the processor. So basically the CPU is nothing but just a component on your device that does the computation and the processing of and execution of programs on your computer. Consider it the brain of your computer's body. The CPU interprets the program's instructions and creates an output that you can now interact with as a human being when you're using the computer. Now, with technology increasing and improving, we usually look at the CPU with three main aspects. That is the clock speed, the number of cores, and the cache memory. So let's start with clock speed. What is it? Now, clock speed is what determines how quickly your CPU can be able to retrieve and interpret instructions. Clock speed is measured in gigahertz, as I mentioned in my last video. If you haven't checked it out, you can check it up here. Now, faster clock speed means that you'll see tasks being done in your computer more quickly and making your experience so smooth and reducing the time that it would have taken for you to wait to interact with your favorite programs or applications in your computer. The next thing you can look for in your processor is what we call the core. The core is simply an individual processing unit within a computer's CPU. So simply it's like a sub CPU within a main now CPU. So originally CPUs had just one single core. That meant that the physical CPU had a single processing unit within it. To increase its performance, manufacturers decided to start adding additional processing units within a single major CPU. A dual-core, for example, has two processing units. Therefore, it will appear to your system as if they are two CPUs. And therefore, this means that the CPU will have the ability to multitask because it will be performing two different functions at the same time, and hence increasing your speed in your computer. And it's worth noting that the clock speed and the number of cores sounds almost the same, but there's a difference. Basically, having a high clock speed but just one or two processor means your computer will be able to interact, yes, with a single application very quickly. On the other hand, having more than one processor cores but a slow clock speed means that your computer will be able to interact with more applications at a time, but each may run a little bit slower. So for instance, you may have an Intel dual core which has two processing units. So if you have an Intel dual core with a very low processing speed, let's say 1.2 gigahertz, which is quite slow nowadays, you'll find that each of those processing units will be able to carry out more than one task, but very slowly. So finally, the next thing you need to check for in a CPU is the cache memory. And what is cache? Cache is basically another kind of a RAM with quite a similar function to RAM, but basically what the cache does is that it stores copies of data which it thinks the CPU is going to use over and over again as it's processing data. And yes, a CPU can run without cache, but it's going to be very slow. This because nowadays, especially with the current generation of CPUs, they are very and so damn fast that at times they can even stay without doing anything as they wait for data to be fetched all the way from the RAM, and hence this creates a bottleneck. And this is why cache memory was developed in order to act as a middleman between the CPU and the RAM so that it can act as a faster link of data transmission. So I hope this video has helped you guys, and if you have liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up down there, and also make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't. For the subscribers I have so far, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. I don't have much to say right now, but other than thank you so much for watching, and I always appreciate when you comment pale chini. Whichever comment you have on my videos, any suggestions, make sure you comment pale chini too. So thank you so much for watching again, and keep on subscribing, and let's meet again in the next video. So long everybody, it's been iRONiX Media.